afternoon, everybody. Just general update, obviously, released earlier today on Jake Muzzin. He's got a cervical spine injury, and he'll be reevaluated with one of the specialists that he saw in late February, and we'll provide an update at that time, but obviously out indefinitely, at least until that evaluation. Then we'll be able to dictate a course from there with regards to where things go with Jake. So we'll continue to support him medically. He'll stay around the team, we think, because of his experience, and not only as a member of our team here, but obviously his experience previously in LA and winning, that he can still bring a lot to our team. So we're fortunate to have him around. TJ Brody, obviously placed on injured reserve today, and so he'll be out a minimum of about 2 weeks is what we expect. We've dealt with a similar thing with John earlier in the season, same injury, so we'll continue to do what's right by him. And then so we've got Hollowell up, Holmberg up, and then we've got Matt Murray trending towards this week and tomorrow, and Samsonov not far behind. So that's where we're at this point, and I'll turn it over to any questions.
Well, based on what you've heard from the medical staff, what are the challenges facing Jake if he's going to play again?
I think it's a really tough one for me to answer, Mark, because we haven't dealt with this type of injury all too often in my experience, with it being a cervical spine injury. So obviously with that, I mean, he's had two notable incidents on the ice, against Columbus in 2000 when we came back to play in Game 2, at the end of Game 2 of that series, and then this one here against Arizona. And it's not something I think you want to really mess around with. So unless he's 100% sure that this recovery time is going to allow that to settle and not be an issue, we have to do what's right for his long-term health. He's obviously a father of 2 young children and husband, and we have to make sure that we're doing right by him. As important as he is to us as a player, his health is paramount.
Is there a rehab process that he's undergoing now until February that he's trying to work through, or is it just rest, really?
No, it's rest. I mean, he's going to continue to train and stay in shape and stay around the team for all the other things that he adds in that regard, as I had outlined. But it's mostly a rest, and then go back and see one of the specialists there in Los Angeles at the end of February, and kind of get a more clear picture of where it's at.
Are you expecting it to return, or are you just hopeful?
It's so hard. If we had any experience with this type of thing, Jonas, I'd stand up and give some semblance of a clear answer, but because of the nature of the injury and because we really don't have a lot of experience with this type of injury, and you're more relying on other sports that don't replicate hockey exactly, it's hard to predict.
He's a big hole to fill, and I know the cap relief that you get could only be temporary if he comes back,
right,
or it could be all season,
right,
which gives you some wiggle room. But how do you expect to fill that hole? Would you be aggressive on the trade market with the cap space, or would you wait till later in the season to see what you can do there?
I think we're always looking to improve the team if we can, Kevin, but I think right now in the short run, it's a great chance for us to really learn. We've got some young defensemen that have earned more opportunity, in both Timothy and Rasmus, so to see how much they can handle, and whether they can, with the increased opportunity, continue to elevate themselves as they each have in their respective starts of their careers with us. So that'll be step one. Step two will be then identifying whether, even if they elevate themselves, whether it's going to be enough to help us really accomplish what we want to accomplish, and then evaluate the trade market and go from there. So usual course, but not in any real hurry to fill it, because we want to really see what these guys bring. And when Jake got hurt last year, the first time in St. Louis and then again in Montreal, we didn't have Mark Giordano then either. So we have Gio here now who adds that sort of veteran stability, but I think as we go through the year, we'll be really closely evaluating how we go. We've also got Dahlstrom, who's an excellent depth guy for us, who's out for the year as well. So it's he's down, and Muzz will be until at least March if there is a return. So it's an area that we'll be on the lookout for and go through it. But our first step here will be to allow our young people to try to thrive.
Kyle, how encouraging is it not only that we look like Matt's coming back tomorrow night, but that the goaltending is out before it? in his absence?
Well, I think the goaltending depth and the defense depth both, Terry, have been tested here. The goaltending one severely, with Matt, Ilya, and Joe Wall all out, and so Eric has come in, and I thought same as last year when he came in. The thing about him is when he has a poor performance or lets in a poor goal, he holds himself accountable and responds really well, and I think that's to me been the most encouraging part of it. And then with Matt out, Ilya stepped up, and hopefully now we get back to full strength with them. But certainly very encouraging there, and on the defense front as well, because Muzz has been out since Game 4. So just now hope to get everyone back to full strength and let it roll.
Is there an update on Wall's status?
Yeah, he's back. The shoulder, he had a bit of a setback with the shoulder, and then in his recovery, then sustained a bit of an ankle injury. So he's slated to participate tomorrow with the Marlies in full practice. So to me, that's a positive sign, and with what he's coming back from, we just need to continue to be patient. But we're hopeful here in the next 2-3 weeks that he can be back up, get through full practices, get cleared, and then get rolling again as well.
Considering everything you've
two more
gone
questions,
through
everybody?
with
Two
the
more?
injuries that we've just been talking about, a lot of adversity early on in the season, just your general sentiment on how this first part of the year has played out for the team.
It may come off as strange, but I personally, I think going through these types of things, whether it's injury, whether it's poor play, that results in some consternation about where we're at. I think it's for me in my role with the team, Mark, I think it's a very positive thing. You learn a lot about the people that you're with day in and day out. You learn who can handle it, who may not be able to, and I think coming back off that Western road trip where we did not play well, I thought our guys did an excellent job here the whole week at home in getting ready to roll and putting together a really good week. And then last week, on the Saturday night going into the second period, we're down again, and rather than let that start to snowball, they dig in and find their way. So that to me is very encouraging. I think if you look around the league, it's so close right now, and there's maybe 3-4 teams that would be really happy with the way that they've started unequivocally, and others that are have been a bit up and down. But to me, it's good to see that, because it's at some point in the year you want to know, will your team be able to handle it, and how do they handle it? And we'll have more of it. But for us, it's when it does happen, are we able to find our way through it and come out the other side? Because go ahead. Yeah.
How do you think Sheldon's handled what seems to be pretty pressure-packed first month of the season?
Yeah, I think he's. I think oftentimes, Luke, when people view that, they see him, whether it's getting upset at the officials or voicing his concern about certain players or certain groups of players on the team, and take it to mean that there's a bit of a kind of coming unglued type way about it. But to me, the way he's handled it is everything is done with a purpose. There's never anything about him that isn't purposeful. And I think in my time knowing him and working with him, when things aren't necessarily perfect, he finds a way to be at his best and get the most out of the group. And I think the thing for me about Sheldon that's always been most encouraging in working with him is, even as we've gone through this season where we've had different stretches where we haven't played as well, the group responds to him. So Saturday night would be another example of that. After the first period, after the road trip out to California, where we didn't have a strong finish of the trip whatsoever, we come back home and we're able to find our game again. And I think that to me represents the way that the players respond to the coach, and it's always very encouraging for me to see, because he's always adapting and always trying to change the way that he does things to make sure that he's always getting through to the group.